Technology adoption is a challenge for most construction companies. It takes time, it costs money, and it has risk involved. Because of that challenge, many construction companies say, I'm just going to do things the way that I've always done them. And that perspective, unfortunately, causes folks to miss out on opportunities to save time and money and solve tough problems using technology. My guest today is Yaron Dycian. He is the Chief Product and Strategy Officer at WINT. WINT is a company that's all about preventing water damage. It detects and stops leaks at the source using artificial intelligence. And the neat thing that Yaron brings to the table is an outsider's perspective on how construction companies identify problems and solve them efficiently and cost effectively using technology. And so today we talk about the importance of getting into a rhythm of technology adoption in your organization, why people on the ground using the technology and senior executives need to be communicating consistently in order to ensure good technology adoption, and how construction companies can go through the inevitable ups and downs of a technology adoption by identifying the right types of vendors who they have a trusting relationship with. So in this interview, you're going to get insights into how you can be more effective at adopting technology in your construction company. Feel free to share this with other construction executives. As always, please give us a rating or a review wherever you get your construction podcasts, because that helps us to get seen across the interwebs. And thank you for listening to Construction Genius today.
This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership.
Yaron, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thanks a lot, and great to be here.
You have a lot of experience in your career in a variety of technology fields, looking at the implementation of technology into a number of different industries. In your experience working with construction companies, what do you see as the biggest challenge they have in terms of adopting new technologies and using them effectively in their business?
Yep. So I think the first challenge is that construction companies are simply not used to adopting new technologies. And it's a rhythm you get into. It's an organizational methodology, a way of thinking for executives, for people on the ground. You know, some types of organizations like banks have been at it for, 30, 40 years. And the construction industry right now is starting to break into it. And, you don't have the staff, you don't have the people who know how to do it, you don't have the experience. And that is the top thing, I think. I think there's also, it's not for no reason, right? It's not that construction companies do not want to improve. They do all the time. But the challenges in construction, to a large extent, are bigger and could not be well addressed by technology up to now. So first of all, it's a very physical world, right? Unlike a bank, which, a bank is a very virtual world. Everything is, what's money, right? It's all numbers on some spreadsheet or a computer.
Let me just ask you a quick question. I picked up a word there that's interesting. This idea of rhythm, getting in the rhythm of adopting new technologies. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that?
So an adoption of new technology starts by, first of all, identifying a problem that you think technology can solve. Then you identify the technology that can solve it, and usually you'll find any technology area has a few vendors who can do something for you. So you need to identify those. You need to choose the technology. You need to implement it and try it out. You need people on the ground who use the technology, and you need executive ownership to monitor that. Then you will occasionally fail. Anybody that tries something new fails. That's part of it. And getting used to failure actually is an important I'd say, organ in your mental thinking, right? I'm used to failing at some things, and that's okay because the benefits are bigger than that 1 point failure. So all of that, the whole process, exists in some organizations and does not in others. And in construction specifically is still, as an industry, not there yet.
So that's very interesting. I like that. You identify a problem, identify a technology, you find vendors that provide that technology, you choose a vendor, you implement both with people on the ground and executive buy-in. And then this is the hard part, I think, for a lot of construction companies, is this idea of failure. because margins are very narrow in construction for a lot of folks. And, people in construction are used to technologists and people from the outside saying, you guys need new technology. And a lot of folks are saying, well, really what we need is to build projects profitably. And if I take on this new technology, I'm risking some of my profit. So in your experience, how do people who adopt new technologies balance that need for profitability, the risk associated with adopting a new technology, the failures that they experience? How does that all work together so that progress can actually be made?
Yep. So, every organization in the world, not just in construction, uses technology to improve profitability, right? I mean, that's the reason that organizations do things. And I think you need to, first of all, identify the problems that you have and where they can improve profitability. And I'll give an example from the world that we come from.
Please.
Right. So we do water leak prevention on construction sites.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's suffered, a significant water leak at the end of a construction project knows how horrific it is, right? I've seen tens of millions of dollars of damages, months and months of project delays, reputation losses, executives running around. Just to put in the insurance claims is a project of its own.
Yep.
And how much does that cost? The knee-jerk reaction you'll get from most construction executives is, hey, I'm insured. I'm okay. Not so. The damage, the long-term damage, and even the immediate damage is not fully covered by insurance. Forget it, right? Everything that goes around this horrific incident is not covered. And, the first thing you have to do is do an analysis. What does it really cost you? I mean, I've seen customers who have done it and they're shocked. Once they have, someone with financial analysis background do the details of it, you find out that yes, insurance will pay, but you're left with an enormous bill. And that's big profitability issue. And when you do the average over many projects, you figure out that's a problem. What's it worth it to you to resolve this problem? First, know the damage. First, know the impact, the financial impact. So, to your question about profitability, I think once you get into the habit of developing new technologies or using new technologies, you understand very well. And part of that capability is to understand how technology can help you. If you've got a better planning process for your project that's computerized and not based on paper, that's going to save you a lot. It's very hard to know how much, but it will save you a lot. Just the endless little mistakes that can be done are so expensive. Yep.
And it's interesting because I think you speak to it well, that in order to justify this possibility of failure and the pain of adopting new technology, you have to do a very good job of painting the picture of what it's costing you to not use that technology. And really, I think what's more important, it's not so much not using a specific technology, but it's not solving a particular problem.
Exactly right.
And so having that perspective that technology isn't just for its own sake, but it's for solving specific problems, and then articulating how much that problem costs, that then can help folks to go through frankly, the pain and the challenge associated with adopting a new technology. Let me ask you another question here. And you mentioned two sets of people here, and I think it's interesting. It seems like you need maybe three sets. You need an internal advocate who understands the technology and the problem and how they might be able to the technology could be used for solving the problem. But then you need the implementers on the ground and the executive support. Why is it so important to have those two groups clearly aligned?
So the people underground are going to use it. If they don't use it, nobody knows what it does and nobody gets the experience. And these need to be, some of your more capable people who have an open mind, who can try out new things, who can solve problems that they've not solved before. Because as an industry in construction, we know all the problems and we've dealt with them, except when you put in something new, it creates challenges. It's not a problem. It's a challenge. And if you overcome it, then you're good to go. And the importance of an executive owner who gets how this happens is because, we know how it is, right? We're all super busy. We all have a lot of things to do. And you need to allow that little bit of leeway for people to try out that something new. And on the other hand, you need to supervise it and make sure that it's going in the right direction. So that combination of capable people on the ground and an executive owner who can monitor and guide that team is super important.
So let me ask you, in your experiences, you have helped people with technology implementations and seen people do it successfully and unsuccessfully. Going back to this idea of rhythm, because I think that's a very good word to be thinking about. How often should an executive team or an executive person who's, charged with this technology implementation, how often should they be interacting with folks on the ground and checking in and seeing how things are going?
This is not overbearing, right? When you get to the rhythm, you've got people doing their thing and you ask them for a biweekly or a monthly review. And as things stabilize, it becomes a quarterly thing. And if something goes wrong, of course, you as the executive need to jump in and see how it gets fixed. But as a general thing, capable teams will just go and run and you just need to monitor.
Okay. And let me ask you this. So one of the interesting things in construction is construction companies, their customers are very often not experts in building a building. And so they entrust themselves to the construction companies in order to build their project. And it's interesting with technology implementations because a lot of construction executives are not technologists. They're not experts in terms of that. So if I'm a construction executive, I'm considering a technology purchase of some kind to solve a specific problem that I've identified. What should I be looking for in terms of the quality of the vendor that I choose to help me to go through that process of implementation? What sets apart a good vendor from a bad vendor in terms of a technology provider?
That's a really good question. I think, first of all, the quality of the vendor will make all the difference. A good vendor who knows what you need and knows how to provide the service, for the same technology will make a huge difference. Now, what makes a good vendor, I think, is a number of things. First of all, the product and the technology need to be there, right? They need to be able to do whatever the task is at hand. But that's not all, right? Every vendor, everyone in the world will have something go wrong at some point in time. And so, nobody's perfect in this world, unfortunately. Yep. And so the second thing is, are these people who, you can trust to jump in and do what it takes when a problem occurs?
Yeah.
And especially if you're touching, cutting edge technology, those are places where things will, as a percentage go wrong more often than in other places. Will those folks jump in? Are they committed to you? And do you trust them? I think, you're choosing a technology, but you're choosing a partner. A technology vendor is a partner for whatever the task is at hand.
Excellent.
Again, if it's okay, I'll give an example from what we do.
No, I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
So, we have a technology solution for preventing leaks and identifying leaks. And, leaks are critical. So the technology sits there, and if it identifies a problem, it'll automatically shut off a valve. Now, that said, it'll also alert your staff. And what happens if staff are alerted at 3 a.m. and everybody's asleep and somebody disabled the valve? Because obviously that's a required feature. It's as though you had nothing. So to that end, we did not stop at technology. We actually added a supervisory team, kind of a command center that monitors this 24/7. And if someone in your staff disabled the valve and there's a problem at 3 a.m. and they're not acting, we're going to start escalating all the way up to your VPs. And that's more than technology. We've not built a technology here. Actually, we did, because getting into the right people and making it effective is a technology. But it's the partnership and it's the service beyond the core technology that makes a difference here.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I think sometimes the way technology is presented is as a magic pill that, you just take the magic pill and everything will be okay. But I think it's good that you brought in the human element and the support element and the service element that is critical for most technologies to be able to be effectively used in an organization. I'd like to also speak to this idea of in many companies, they don't have the people in place who have a broad perspective in terms of technology. And so perhaps they're experts in construction, building a project in a particular way. But as time moves on, new technologies are introduced. Because they don't have an internal expert or an internal group of experts, they're not comfortable with that adoption. In your experience, how does a company effectively bring those types of folks into their organization? How does that work?
So, quite a few of our customers have innovation executives. And they are people from within the organization who, on the one hand, understand what you as a construction expert do. And on the other side, are open to ideas. And you entrust them with this task. And you tell them to go look for technologies. And once you have a person whose time is dedicated to that, that person, for a mid-size, construction company, that's not big money. But that person is going to open up the mind of the organization. He will map out the needs. He will understand where failures are. He will look at the market. He will see what competitors are doing, what vendors are talking about. You don't need a huge staff. Find someone you trust within the organization who's computer savvy, who has kind of, the desire to do this, the passion. You'll see wonders happening. You'll see that person pull in. And the second thing I'll say, these people, should be given freedom to operate, right? They should be allowed to do things, because it's very easy to block. And, unfortunately, the industry has an element of conservatism to it. This is how we've done it for 1 million years and we're good with it. So, that person needs to know how to operate in the organization and get innovative stuff done, despite what could be some objections.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you mapped it out quite well there in terms of an innovation executive, someone who is able to describe the needs in the organization, look at the competition, and I think sometimes you've got to do that, don't you? It's okay. It's okay to see what your competition is doing and what they've done well, and to learn from them. To also look at the various vendors, and I think it's important for a technology executive or an innovation executive to begin to develop those relationships, because you spoke well to the need for those trusting relationships to be built so that you can place your confidence in someone. And then that freedom to operate. And what that sounds like to me is that the chief executive, the president, they need to be in close contact with that innovation executive and be willing to advocate for them with the perspective that this person is looking at new ways to solve old problems. Am I hearing that right?
That is exactly right. And that person, this has to do with, specific personal capabilities, needs to know how to convince the project executive that this is good for you and you should try it and it will not hurt you, and work together and maybe have some budget for a trial and things of that sort. So absolutely, yes. No, and when there's an executive monitoring this from the core of the business and supporting this, things happen. It makes stuff happen in the organization.
I think it's interesting also that you have to ideally have someone who's the innovation executive, someone who actually understands the company, because they're going to have to navigate the various cultural challenges that might come up when a technology adoption is introduced or is proposed. Because like you said, sometimes you get the response, hey, we've been doing it this way for so many years and it's worked so far. And, if we try something new, it might cost us money. It might cost us time. There's risk involved. And so someone has to be able to navigate that part of it as well.
If I may give an example,
yes, please.
So This is actually from the operational world because our solutions go both to construction and operational facilities.
Uh-huh.
But, a big Fortune 200 customer of ours wanted to try the solution. They're actually a large insurer. So they wanted to try it. And they have an innovation team who is entrusted with this stuff. So they said, let's take a look at how good the solution is. How do we do this? The only way is to, eat your own dog food, right? We're going to install it in our building. So now you have to go to the facilities team who really manages the facility and convince them to install the system. And guess what? The facilities team didn't want it. We're okay. We're good. Don't bug us. It's more work. It's more, we don't want to do this. But that innovation team knew the people and they knew how to operate and they had some budget. So it didn't all come out of the, operational budget. And it went in. And guess what? 8 months later, they love this stuff. Yep. But it wouldn't have gotten in otherwise.
Yep. So there's it's really interesting because there is an understanding of human psychology that is really important when it comes to adopting a new technology, particularly if it's something that hasn't been extensively tested within an industry. So tell me a little bit more about what WINT does for construction companies.
So we have a solution that's installed. Basically, the problem we solve is the problem of water leak damage in construction sites. This is tens of billions of dollars worldwide for just the water leak damages. Some insurers went out of the market. Some insurers raised premiums. I have customers whose deductibles were raised to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at hundreds of thousands of dollars, you get 3 incidents on your project, your profitability is kind of gone.
Yep.
So, big problem. What we do is install water intelligence units. They're basically valves and meters with a very smart control unit that reads the data off of these meters in real time at very high time resolutions. It runs artificial intelligence analytics in real time. And when it identifies a problem, it can alert or it can alert and shut off the valve. And our customers, so you mentioned Tidhar, $1 billion GC. Yep. We have, Mace Construction out of the UK. We have some of, the America's largest general contractors work with this. And they have seen a massive, massive reduction in water leak damages, practically down to zero. Now, here's an interesting thing, going back to problems that we may not be aware of as a GC. Right? How many people think that water waste on their construction site is something they care about? I will say practically nobody.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. I go into construction sites. I put on these systems whose goal is to analyze damaging leaks and stop them. And what do I see? In this construction site, you've got some water tank that's filling water on the one end. It's got a bad valve in the tank, and it's pouring water right out the water flow at huge rates, day in, day out, $80,000 a year.
Right.
Nobody knows about this, but you just had a huge water bill. And we solved this. It's kind of a side benefit. Nobody bought our system because of this today, but they're getting the benefit for a problem they never recognized.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So these are the things we do, right? We prevent damage, and as a side benefit, we save you a lot of money on the waterways.
That's excellent. So how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to and learn more about WINT?
We have a website and we can be contacted, www.wint.ai. There's a great spot by CNN about WINT. They show how our customers, including construction sites, large GCs, big manufacturers like PepsiCo, Microsoft, how they use our technology. And, you can get in touch with us through the website.
Excellent. And then that feature, that's a video feature?
Yes. It's a 3-minute spot, CNN.
Excellent. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes, as well as a link to your website. Now, Yaron, I know you're out there in Tel Aviv, Israel. So if I'm in Tel Aviv, what is the one restaurant that I need to go to?
This is an impossible question because Tel Aviv is one of the best culinary centers. But I was out in a place called Timna TLV last week with friends and family, and it's phenomenal. Timna TLV.
And what kind of food?
Give me a buzz. Give me a buzz before you do.
Okay, what kind of food is that?
Israeli designer food. It cannot be classified. I mean, all these chefs. Like we've got technology startups. I mean, we call ourselves startup nation for technology.
Yep.
Same thing goes for restaurants. They all invent their own thing. It's a scene. It's really a scene here. So
that's beautiful. I'm going to ask you to email me a link to that place, so that if anyone's ever in Tel Aviv, they can go check it out, or at least contact you to check it out. Huh?
I will do that.
Awesome. Yaron, I really appreciate your time. I think it's very important to get an outsider's perspective in terms of how to implement technology effectively. I think your ideas here around getting into a rhythm of technology implementation, clearly identifying problems, putting in place a technology specialist who can advocate for new technologies, all those are very important. And I think there's tons of great takeaways here that people can consider for making sure that technology is effectively implemented in their organizations. Really appreciate you joining us here today on Construction Genius.
No, I really appreciate you having me here. Thanks a lot.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Construction Conclave. If you as a construction leader would like to develop your skills and get involved in a community of like-minded construction professionals who are focused on building healthy teams, profitable projects, and long-term successful businesses, then the Construction Conclave is for you. It's a private, invitation-only group of construction leaders that are focused on developing their leadership skills. We do training every single month online that looks at how to become a better leader in a very practical, straightforward way. We also have other events that build community and camaraderie so that you can associate with others who are interested in developing their skills as leaders. If you'd like more information and to see if you qualify for participating in the conclave, feel free to reach out to me, eric@ericanderton.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and thanks again for listening.